Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond.
The show where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I'm Amari.
I'm Charisma. Welcome back.
Yes, yes. Hello.
Hello. We're missing one. Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
How are you?
That's actually how I learned about harmony.
Is it really?
Three Stooges, yeah.
I learned about comedy from the Three Stooges,
that's
so
funny.
that's interesting.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what's up today?
We are talking about
Uh-huh.
raw relationships.
Oh, okay.
I feel like we have to do one of these a season.
Yeah, of course, at least
I feel like
one.
we've done at least.
I mean, it's
one a
definitely a topic people, everybody can weigh in. Everybody
Yes.
has experiences and views on the situation.
Yes.
So what aspect of relationships, though?
Just kind of the state of relationships and where they're going. It's interesting because I come from a family of really long relationships and marriages. My grandparents were together for 68 years, married for 66 before my grandfather passed. My parents have been together since they were 13 and 14. They've been married somewhere near 40 years now, but they've been together since they were 13 and 14. And it's interesting because I'm not married yet, but looking at their relationships, looking at, friends' relationships, and then even my own, it's just interesting to see like where things are going. And I feel like social media, especially now, like in 2020, is playing a big role, probably more of a role than it should be playing in relationships, which is interesting.
Positive, negative?
I think a little bit of both.
Word?
I think it's cool when people are able to have more means of connecting, meaning like, you can connect with anyone from all over the world through social media, and if something blossoms from that, great. But I do also feel like it introduces new elements to relationships that weren't there 15, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
where you have more access to people, possibly more access to temptation,
Yeah.
access to being in people's DMs that you shouldn't be.
I mean, that wouldn't have been where I'd have gone, because when you said more access to things, I was thinking about how when you meet somebody, the first thing you do is Google them. And back in the day, it was like, oh, word, now you can basically pull up.
I still Google people.
I mean, yeah, without a doubt,
sure.
it's definitely, you need to know who these people are.
Yeah.
But you're saying that is. It may not be a negative thing. You feel like, oh, this dude's a serial killer. Let me tell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, at least now you can find out sooner versus later.
Yeah.
In any event, today we're joined by a longtime friend of the show, Joyce Harden, and we're going to be talking about the state of relationships, kind of, her own personal experiences, where we see things going, all that fun stuff. And I'm excited. I feel like this is going to be a fun conversation today.
How could it not be? Yeah.
But we're going to take a break, so we'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this. Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We are now joined by our friend, Joyce Harden.
Miss Joyce in the building.
Yes.
Hey.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.
It's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
we're going to just jump right in.
Yes, let's
We're
dive
talking
in.
relationships.
Yeah.
What would you say is the state of relationships today? Just in general, how do you feel about where relationships are?
I think relationships are kind of going in a different direction with the millennials, are really kind of determining the factor of how relationships should be. Traditionally, we had relationships that they really were like old school. So it was like you meet a family member, somebody knows somebody to introduce you to someone else. And it was like, oh, I think this guy would be a great fit for you. This is his family background. This is what you have. Nowadays, they meet on social media. They're meeting at meetup groups. They're meeting through DMs, like just looking someone up and finding that they're attractive and just like, oh yeah, I just want to reach. I just want to get to know him or get to know her. And it's not the ideal relationship that I would prefer, but it's working for some and it's not working for others.
Interesting.
You know what another one is? Dogs.
Okay.
They be walking their dogs. Dogs start sniffing the other dog. They get to talking.
Does that happen?
No, statistically, they said some,
I don't
more
have
than
a
you
dog.
would
I don't
expect.
have a
Percentage
dog
of things is
anymore.
like.
So I do have a dog, and my dog, does sniff a lot of other dogs, which he shouldn't. I think that's inappropriate. Like
Time's up. Me too. You know what I'm
keep
saying?
your paws to yourself.
Keep
Let's
your
not
paws
do
to
that.
yourself.
Yeah.
But you don't find that to be an entry point into conversation when you out on taking your dog for a walk. Dog starts get to sniffing. The owner's like, yeah. So.
I think it starts a conversation
Yeah.
and engagement. but I don't want to develop a relationship out of us walking our dogs.
Yeah.
But I do think it kind of starts, you know, an interest in topics.
If I see a cute guy with a cute dog, like.
There it is. It is.
We're definitely gonna have a conversation.
I do think there's
You're
something.
like, hey, I like your dog. Where did you
I'm done. Can I pet your puppy?
Yeah,
Oh, hi,
hey,
puppy
stop,
dad.
that's
How
an-
are you? I'm sorry.
So, look, but I do think there's something there though in terms of like, all right, so, you know, when I was a young junior high kid, young whippersnapper, right? I used to be so nervous to approach somebody like in the mall, because back in the day it was the mall. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my God, I get, knots in my stomach. I know, on the outside I look cool, calm, and collected. Inside. But that isn't an easy way, right? That's an easy entrance, whether it be through a dog or a DM or something like that. So the barriers, that were previously in place, and now there are ways around that.
Yeah.
Send a quick message or whatever.
Yeah, I
so
think
at
a
the
lot
very
of
least,
the
it
walls are
facilitates
down.
communication.
They're definitely broken.
Yeah, and I think to a certain degree it takes something away from it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's.
Oh.
I mean, I just feel like dating, for me at least, sometimes it's like people are so used to communicating with that buffer of like social media or like a DM where it's not that one-on-one interaction in person, that sometimes when people get in person and they don't have the buffer of their phone or something else, like having a conversation, like just conversing, it seems to be like a struggle for some.
They can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in person. So because of modern technology, a lot of the communication is through like social media or through their texts or through phones, and it can be misinterpreted. I think that it would be more, you can find out more about a person when you meet them face to face, and you get to feel their vibe, and you get to kind of, I won't say size them up, but you kind of size them up, like checking them out, looking at the abs, looking at the calves and the thighs.
Oh, that's what you be seeing. Because I'll be looking at their mind. What's their mind talking about? You over there looking at their calves, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, their mind is definitely.
Do they skip leg day? That's what you want to know.
What you looking at?
You want to know if you're like this up here, and
Absolutely. I mean, you want to be attracted to the person at the same time.
Yeah, right.
So, I'm not just looking at, what's coming out your mouth, because that could be something that's a put on just to get me to engage in dialogue. It could be masked.
Are you talking about the honeymoon phase?
For that it's like a honeymoon phase. And then after a certain period of time, it's like the babe done went out the window, sweetheart done went out the window, and it's like, this girl's getting on my nerves, so you check all angles.
Well, when we come back from the break, I do want to talk with you about, because you had mentioned millennials, right? And even this idea of relationship structure, which seems to be, at least there's more conversation about alternative relationship structures. When we come back on 28 Days and Beyond. We're back on 28 Days and Beyond with Joyce Harden. Miss Joyce.
Yes.
Miss Joyce.
All right, so you had mentioned earlier about millennials, and we're seeing different types of relationship structures, right? More people are talking about polygamy, polyamory, non-monogamy, right? Things like that. What has been your take on that?
I'm personally not a fan. I have a young daughter myself, and we talk a lot about relationships, and there's a lot of terms that comes out in the dialogue that we have, like, people are cuffed, and that's how you know that they're together, and I'm like, cuff what? Like, what are they cuffed? She was like, what, cuff? I was like, well, people go to prison when they're cuffed. So I don't want to be cuffed in a relationship with somebody, like I'm locked in. And it's just different terminologies that they're using, that they're changing to kind of like signify their relationships, which is fine. I'm just old school and I'm older. The generation is different, but it's good to kind of hear her perception and her friend's perception and just views on how, they think about relationships. I tend to find that they are having issues with identity and having voids in their life and filling those void with relationships. And women have the tendency sometimes to tell men all the things that they did not get, all the issues that they've had. And sometimes men can be master manipulators and use that as a ploy to fill that void temporarily. And they get, sucked in, and women are emotional at times. So they are captivated by, someone coming in and just sweeping them off their feet versus by something they said or something they've done, or taking them out something they never had or experienced before, because there's a lack of the presence of fathers in their life, or the lack of acceptance that they're beautiful and that they're gorgeous, and doesn't matter what their weight, their hair, big nose, big eyes, big ears, but that I'm beautiful inside and out regardless of how people want to label me. And when you find that, then you know your value and your worth. You won't just accept anything. You start building your own standards boundaries and living by them and executing them when you're dating.
It's interesting that you brought up standards, because I feel like that's a conversation that I've had with several of my friends and just people, you know, that I respect their opinions. And it's almost a thing now where, because there's so much access, especially for millennials, with social media, with all these other avenues, online dating, it's just so many people that you have access to. So it's almost like the standard has been lowered to a certain degree with, you know, like, say you go out on a date with someone and you expect them to, you know, pull out your chair or open doors. If 5 other women that he's dated prior to dating you, if that's not an expectation, and then you expect that, who's to say this guy won't just be like, well, I don't need to date her, she's too high maintenance, and then just move on to the next person. So I almost feel like there's also this thing where there's not as much stake, and not for everybody, put into actually like putting in the work and finding out who the person is and like what it is that they want, what you want, and seeing if those things match up before you just say, oh, he's cute, she's cute, let's be together.
Right, I don't think it's even high maintenance. I think I'm just trying to show you how I would like for you to treat me, and you can decide whether you want to be a part of that or not. But if I allow you to treat me like you treat your last girl, that's why y'all not together. So I can't have you come in and treat me like you think I should be treated. But at the same time, you're broken. And you're broken because in dysfunctional relationships, if you're used to dysfunctional relationships you've been in, when you get in one, you're going to still conduct yourself accordingly. Then that's what you're used to. But when you find something new where there's no arguments, no debates, no drama, it's like, what's happening? I need something. It's like I need something tragic in my life to say that we have something solid, instead of saying, no, I have something where I'm at peace and joy. And not that you're not going to have basic ups and downs, but nothing that should be really drastic.
It's
so yeah, open my door, brother.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Please, and thank you.
With gusto.
I saw this, it was like a meme, and it said something along the lines of, the biggest test is after a toxic relationship, like a healthy relationship, seeing how you actually fare.
Right. I think at times we tend to, in my experience, I've tend to try to help that person out of the situations they've been in, and had to realize that I'm not Home Depot. I can't fix you. You're broken, and you have to find the strength within your own self to make yourself whole. But if I'm whole and you're whole, I want you to, we should be complimenting each other's completeness. And a lot of times we're trying to look for that person to fill that void and to make us feel like we're important and, you know, I'm loved and all these other things. And women, we're natural nurturers, so we want to, you know, fix it. Like, what's going on? What's the matter? What you want to do? What you want to build? You know, I'm here for you. And that leads us to neglect ourselves and our needs and our desires, where not that you can't support, but it's a difference between supporting someone and enabling them to be the best person they're supposed to be.
Communication is key. I wish we had some more time, Ms. Joyce, but
Me
we're
too.
out of time.
That's all right.
You'll come back next season.
I'll come back again.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
And we're back with 28 Days and Beyond. Charisma.
Yes.
Miss Joyce always brings a lot to the table.
Yes, she does.
What are some of the things that stuck out to you?
No, I want you to go first, because we had a good convo.
With gusto.
With gusto.
With gusto. You know, one of the things that was on my mind is that we often talk about millennials, and by millennials we mean the younger millennials.
Yes.
Generation Z, I think, is the one that comes after that. Whoever the other kids are, right? But I'm always curious about, where did they learn these things from, or where did they not learn the things that we're supposed? You know what I'm saying? That we want, that we say that we wanted to have instilled in them, because it had to be a breakdown somewhere.
Yeah.
You know.
And I mean, there are a lot of elements that millennials, particularly younger millennials, have had introduced in their lives a lot earlier than even we did. You know, if you think back to, like, we know when there was a time where there weren't computers, right? Where we like actually wrote our homework down and all that kind of stuff. For a lot of younger people, like, they've only had technology as part of their life. So taking that into other aspects of their life with dating, like, it makes sense that that would be something that they would be more comfortable with than someone who, say, you know, wrote letters or.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you look at trends, one would be, so it's the idea of commitment. How people don't want to commit, or they want to, you know, play the field or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, even if you look at employment, right?
Yeah.
Is it the average time that if you have a job for 5 years, that's considered a long time. Most
Yeah.
people are using 2 or 3 years to stay
Whereas
in a job.
our parents, it's like they were in
Yo,
jobs
they
for 30 years,
something
and
years
then
and
they
retired.
retired.
Exactly. So then if you take that approach, and the approach to relationships, the approach
Would
to
be the
anything would be
same.
like, oh, we're here for a little bit, and then, you know, I want to be
Right.
able to roam.
Listen, I just feel like to each, you know, to each his own or her own. Do whatever makes you happy. I think even in the age of technology and people finding new ways to communicate and date and all those things, the main thing is just making sure you stick true to what it is that you want for you as it pertains to relationships, and making sure that the person that you do decide to interact with in that capacity is on the same page, on the same wavelength. That's really all it is.
I feel you. I mean, because at the end of the day, if somebody comes to you talking some triflingness, what do you say?
Blocked.
So in other words, you know what I mean?
In
So
real
it's like, yo,
life
like
or online, it's
you were
like,
talking
no,
about
I'm
you were talking
good.
about standards, and the
Yeah.
fact is like if you have a sense of who you are and what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and if they not that, like if I go to
Then-
this, I don't have a dog, I'm not going to the store to buy no dog food, right?
Right.
Somebody trying to sell me some dog food, I'm like, that's
No,
not for me.
thank
I'm
you.
gonna
That's
keep it
not
moving.
for me.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a no, thank you. That's not for me. If
You
it's
already know
not
what
for
it
you,
is.
and keep it moving.
Keep it
I am going
moving.
to start frequenting more dog parks though,
Hey, this has been another episode of 28 Days and Beyond.
where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We'll see you next time.
Peace.